I guess on the business side, the problem with the sequel trilogy is that even JJ said it. They had no plan.
Nope.
Exactly. No
They had
Yep.
no
plan.
plan, and it kills me. This is why when I talk about Star Wars and I make up stories and pitch stories and stuff, and people like, oh, that would. I'm like, would it never happen? Because they took $1 billion franchise, had no plan, and just made something. So what makes these people any smarter than me? The idea that they're smarter than me and you is trumped up by Hollywood magic. None of these people are better at making stories than you and I, because we saw it in 3 movies. All right.
Right.
We saw it in 3 movies where cool stuff happened, but it wasn't a trilogy. Cool things happen
Yeah.
wrapped in aimless movies.
Yes.
Well, they had an aim. The aim was make money, but, but
Yeah.
so the problem, like even with stuff like the whole thing with Finn and Ray, they were clearly supposed to be a pair, but then I guess they pulled the plug. Maybe they didn't want an interracial thing. They were scared of that. Then Ray could have been dope, but then people complained about her, so they pulled back on her a little bit. Then the whole thing with what is it, Carrie Marie Tran, which was, I don't even know who cared. And then like people were just mad. People were just mad because they weren't well thought out movies. Even with myself, I was like, oh, cool, I get it. The Force Awakens. We have these 3 characters. Oh, the Force is, because it's been, dark side so long. Now the Force is just awakening in these 3 people. Like you have a literal stormtrooper that was bred from youth, snaps out of it due to the Force. The Force then awakens in Ray, because the Force has to balance, it has to overcorrect. And then you have this pilot who's great, almost superhuman great, and he doesn't even understand why. Why? Because the Force is overcorrecting, because it has to balance all of this.
Right.
But nah, they were just like, we want to make movies.
Right.
Don't worry about that. Poe, no big deal. Poe does, whatever. Who cares? Finn, whatever. Something will happen. And I'm like, no, this is $1 billion franchise. Y'all said
Yes.
y'all had a story group. What is going on?
Well,
Now,
and
did
Michael, you hit
cool
the
things happen? Yes. Cool thing, especially the light speed, when she went through the ship, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
yeah.
But the movie wasn't really that dope.
Well, and 100%. And here's the thing too: is like with the sequel trilogy, they were scared to take risks, and that was really frustrating because you have 2 characters here with Kylo Ren and Rey at the beginning, right? You had Kylo Ren, who was dark side. You had Rey, who was light side. Rey ends up being a Palpatine at the end of the 3rd movie. It would have been really, really dope, and it would have set up the next trilogy perfectly if by the end of this trilogy, if you mapped it out, and by the end of this trilogy, Rey goes just full Palpatine, like Empress Palpatine. She's sitting on the throne like my grandpappy, right? The whole thing. and Kylo would have been redeemed to Ben Solo, right? And that would have been the end of episode 9. So now you set up the next 3 movies. Now you have Empress Palpatine versus Ben Solo. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, because maybe she goes so crazy that Kylo Ren is like, whoa, what is going on? Like, I never want. And then, of course, now you're looking at someone who lost his father and lost his mom, and now sees how crazy this whole situation is, and that he's even been roped into this mess. Now he's like, hold up. Like, Uncle Luke was right, this, that, and the third. Okay, we have to stop this. And with that realization now, having, Empress Palpatine, it's all set up for another trilogy.
I'm telling you, it would have been really cool. It would have been really, really cool. But they took the really kind of safe route, unfortunately.
And that's why, hey, over or under, Jay, how much do you believe that this Ray movie is going to happen?
Oh, I give it a 3% chance of happening.
Because when they said Ray, I was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?"
Yeah.
I think I don't have an issue with Ray, but I just know, like, she's not too well liked. But if you have a plan and a real story and a fire trailer, you can change everyone's opinion. You know what I'm saying? It just better be really good.
Well, and let me say this. I actually think that Rey is an amazing character. I had Rey in my top 3 characters before the latest seasons had come out. So I got to go back and think about if anybody else would show up in my top 3 characters. I think Rey is a phenomenal character. That's not the issue I have with the Rey film. The issue I have with the Rey film is that everything that came out of Celebration feels like a response to an overcorrection that was made 2 years ago. The overcorrection that was made 2 years ago was, we're not confident that we can make a Star Wars film anymore and have it make money. And now Bob Iger and Bob Chapek at the time are telling us that streaming is of the utmost importance. We've got to do TV shows. So let's cut our movie slate. We're not doing movies. We'll come back to movies sometime. I don't know when we're going to come back to movies. And then Bob Iger comes back and goes, you guys are sitting on top of billions of dollars. You're sitting on top of billions of dollars of revenue for the Walt Disney Company, and you're not making movies. What is going on? And then suddenly, instead of saying, well, no worries, we can bring Patty Jenkins back in to make her film. No worries, we can bring Taika Waititi back in to make his film. No worries, we got Kevin Feige lined up to make a film. They squandered all of that work. They squandered it. They did not pursue it. It did not get anywhere in development. That's only a fraction of the ones that were announced, by the way, in the past. And so they go, we better announce 3 new movies because my boss is pretty mad that these movies aren't coming out. And so I look at the Rey film and I go, it doesn't have a script. They said they're going to have a script in 6 weeks. They announced that Daisy Ridley is coming back. Daisy Ridley, amazing. Love Daisy Ridley. Would love to see her as Rey again. But I have no confidence the movie's going to be made because the director that they associated to, phenomenal director, done a couple episodes. Yes, has done some Oscar-winning type of things in the past, mostly not large sci-fi storytelling. Has done 2 episodes of Ms. Marvel. Cool. Love to see her do more stuff. Have no problem with her at all. But you had a Patty Jenkins lined up movie. She was excited about doing that movie, and that movie didn't make it in. You had a Kevin Feige announcement, the guy who's on top of the world in terms of money making at the movies, and his movie's going nowhere. What makes you think that this is going to go somewhere? Well, it's impossible.
Well, a couple of things about the Kevin Feige thing was dead on arrival because Kathleen Kennedy, isn't a beloved studio head. Whether people like what she's done or don't like what she's done, reality is that a lot of fans don't really dig her, right? You have Kevin Feige play in her sandbox and crush it. She looks real. That's embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? Right?
See, now real quick, I disagree. Here's why I disagree. Because I was in an argument one time with this guy that was like, oh, well, Kathleen Kennedy sucks. She sucks. She's the worst person in the world. She sucks. She's horrible. And she's never done
We know some of those people. We know some of those people.
Sucks. She's horrible. And she's a turd. And then they're like, then they're like, I love the Mandalorian. It's like, well, you have to give her credit for that, right?
That's true.
If she's the boss, she's the boss. She's the boss for the losses and the wins. You can't say she's the boss for the losses and then the wins is some of the players. It's kind of like the coaches lose, players win. It's like no, you've got to give her the credit for the wins too. So guess who brought the people in? Guess who stroked the check to pay the people for Mandalorian? Yeah. Ooh, that was the turd known as Kathleen Kennedy. so you have to give her props where she's right. Yes, she made some big mistakes. And I don't know who was in the room that said, oh, yeah, we have no plan. Let's just make some movies. And nobody was like, hey, hold up. But she also came through with Mandalorian and a character in Grogu because she was in charge of that. So you got to give it, the buck stops there, right? So you got to give it. So the character for which we've all probably bought 3 or 4 versions of them. I got a Christmas Grogu. I got a regular Grogu. I got a little toy figure Grogu. I got tons of Grogus all over the place. It's a Grogu factory. But I mean, so you have to give her that credit. So if Kevin Feige comes through and makes this money, then it's like, hey, look at what Kathleen did. She knows how to hire the right people, knows how to get things done. Or
That's a
would people that hate Kathleen say, well, Kevin did all that by himself?
No, that's a great point, Michael. That's a fantastic point. Yeah, if he came in and crushed it, that's a different perspective on that. Like, yeah, she's the one, she's the head of the studio. So like you said, the buck stops here, whether it's good or bad. So it would have been, like you said, her decision to bring him on. Mm-hmm. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. And the I can never pronounce I feel so bad. The gal who's doing the Ray movie, is it Charmin Chenoy?
Yeah. Something. There's another. It's a double name. The last name. It's like Obed.
Yes.
Obed Chenoy or something like Chenoy Obed or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apologies, young lady.
Yes. Apologies. Yes. I think that one's a while. Like, okay, for me, like the James Mangold movie, I think it has a pretty good chance of getting made because like the studio's already worked with him on Indiana Jones 5. And so
if Indy's big, it has a really good shot. And it's also, to your point, OG, it's not based on any other material that it has to work with or deal with or solve those story problems. It's coming before anything.
Right, exactly. And then the Dave Filoni thing, again, he's worked with the studio, I mean, continuously. That movie will get made. The Charmin Chenoy movie, I'm just a little bit, like we were talking Star Wars Celebration, like what's going to happen, what's not. That's the one that I'm like kind of like iffy because she's done the Marvel stuff, but she hasn't yet worked with Lucasfilm. So we'll see how that relationship works out. We'll see if it happens or not.
She's helming a character that is like the bane of many people's existence. With me, I'm like, yo, Ray isn't the problem.
No,
starting a trilogy with no plan is the problem. It could have been anybody. The character could have been named Ted. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Like the trilogy would have been a whole bunch of cool things that happened, but the movies went nowhere.
That's exactly it. And the characters that were introduced in the sequel trilogy are dope. Kylo Ren, Rey. I like these characters, but you're right, Michael. It's the story. It wasn't the character. It was never the characters that were the problem. It was the story that was the issue. 1000%.
Also, how Luke was handled, because Rian Johnson is awesome, and I see what Rian Johnson is saying. I get it. Kill it, let it die. But you also got to know who. It's kind of like in Mo Better Blues. He said, if you play the stuff you like, if you play the stuff they like, people will come. Stop trying to be all special with this jazz. Play the stuff they want. Play the hits. People have been waiting for Luke to come back in tip-top shape. Yeah. Do not do this. Now, do I think it's a cool take on the character to have someone like, you know what? No, we lost, and maybe we should have lost because we didn't do right and we didn't do this, and we don't deserve the right to be. I get that side, but I also get that there's a lot of people waiting for their hero, ready to see, Hulk Hogan rip the shirt again. So it's like they're waiting to see that. I mean, even me, I thought we were going to see Luke in episode 7 when, what is it? Rey she's using the lightsaber and Kylo's like, that's mine. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the lightsaber goes flying and, of course, Rey catches it. But if Luke would have caught it and said, this is mine, theater would have went off. It would have been over. Theater would have went crazy. It would have been done, son. That would have been it. They would have been like, that would have been it. The theater would have went crazy. But y'all are so busy trying to trick people. Give the people what they want.
and that Force Awakens at the very how it ended on a cliffhanger, I think it was a mistake. Yes, it left people guessing, and the fandom went crazy with the speculation for like 2 years, I believe, after that. But here's a problem with the cliffhanger is that you have to start the next movie immediately after. And there's usually, like George Lucas usually had time gaps in between these movies for a reason, right? To start kind of set stuff up in between. With this, you didn't get a chance to do that because if you can't just like leave people on that cliffhanger and then be like, well, 10 years later, now we're here. So I think that was a misstep for sure.